Uju, majakwat Najinikaz, Maingan, Nudidame, Aquawebening, Nadunjaba. Uju, my name is Clear Sky. I'm from the Wolf Clan, and I'm from the place where they fish through a hole in the ice. My other name, in the other world, my name is Cathy Begay. I'm from the Wolf Clan, and I live in what's commonly known as Chief Lake at Lakudare here. Odawazaga Inganing, Nandunjaba is where I'm from. First and foremost, sometimes people want to know what's a Navajo person with the name of Begay doing up in the Lakudare country with Anishinaabe. That's because my grandfather, who was Navajo, married my grandmother, and they are the parents of my father. And then my mother is Bernice Anderson, and she was born and raised in New Post. And my parents had 8 children. I'm the second of 8. And we moved all over, and I could pretty much tell you where we lived by where my younger brothers and sisters were born. However, they always referred to Lakudare as home, and we'd make an annual pilgrimage to Lakudare pretty much from wherever we lived, and for different reasons, but primarily what I recall is my grandmother wanted to come up here every fall this time of year to go ricing, or as she got older, then she would just come up and get her rice. So I had a lot of connections with Lakudare, and this is a place where I always wanted to live. Bringing me back to this conference, when my parents lived all over the place, but yet they referred to Lakudare as home, I said, well, then how come we don't live there? And they would say that well, there's a lot of drinking that goes on. And sometimes I'd be baffled. I'd come up here and we'd meet different relatives and different friends, and we'd want to spend the night. We'd meet our cousins and or other friends, and my parents would never let us stay over anybody's house, and I didn't understand that. And then later, as I got older, they'd whisper and they'd say, well, they drink, and so, and at the time, my father, when I was a young in my childhood, he had quit drinking, and to this day, despite all the things that my parents had gone through with their 8 children, I am so grateful that my father had protected us from that type of environment of alcoholism and everything that goes along with the drinking. And I still have memories when I was a younger girl. I believe I was about 8 or 9 or 10 maybe when my dad quit drinking, and I'm very thankful for that. And I can't imagine what my life would be like, if it were any other way. If there was drinking involved as we were growing up. And which brings me back to the conference. There's so many things that have happened to our people, and I always have dreams and memories and talks of the way things used to be. And I heard this from people, probably they have everything categorized now and we're able to express things. And there is a language barrier. One time we spoke in our our traditional native tongue, and then then there was that transition where we're speaking English, and now we're trying to get back to our language. But to me, it's always been comforting when I could verbalize how I'm feeling and how I'm thinking. And I know as a Native person, well, I didn't know it as a Native person at the time. I just had difficulty expressing my feelings and talking about, I guess, emotions. And that's always been the most troubling for me. So if I can, and that's what I like about education. I can read, I can talk, I can speak to people, I can go places, I can learn. So when I see things in black and white, that's comforting for me. And I guess I'm just simply a product of living here in the 21st century, and education is so important. And education to me is just simply sharing our teachings with our children and listening to the stories from our elders or friends that come from someplace else. And this is pretty much what our conference is all about. It's talking about what had happened to us, not only individually with our own individual trauma in our lifetime, but it's also understanding that historical trauma, the intergenerational, the multi-generational, how things have affected us with the dispossession, the Indian wars, the boarding schools, the biological warfare when the military or whomever, I don't know if it was from the churches, but they would infect things with the smallpox or other diseases. And then we had relocation and termination, and now they talk about the modern times with gangs and drugs, and I see that in our community. And but this is where I've always wanted to live, and I'm just determined that I want to make this a good place, or help make a good place for my grandchildren and their grandchildren, and that's what it's all about. And I firmly believe that the only way we're going to combat our problems is simply what did our relatives do? What did our ancestors do? How did they survive when so many others were killed and were impaired and were hurt and grew up, just feeling mean and ugly, and or just not having any feelings, and I just don't want that lifestyle for myself, and I don't want that for my children. So I really believe that the way to bring back our culture and be human beings on this planet, and to be who we are, because we were placed here, Odawa Zaga Inganing, my children, all my children and my grandchildren live and work here, and they play here, and it's just a beautiful place. But this is the place where I thought, this is where my roots are, this is where I could choose for my roots to be, because, I have, my parents are from here, my friends and my relatives, and this is where I think, I as a person have grown and strengthened because of, I've learned from, the relationship that we have with the water and the plants and the animals, and the earth and everything that's in it and that's around us. We have this relationship, and that's what I'm learning, through all our different traditions and our teachings. And that strengthens me, my tribal identity, who I am as a human being. And also, I'm using, what the Creator had given us, and what I hear through the, the passing of the stories and the legends that, they're so meaningful, and I like hearing them over and over and over again, because then I too will tell them to my children, who are adults now, so that they can tell their children, and I can tell my grandchildren. And it's just a beautiful way of life, and we become stronger spiritually through our songs and our dances and our ceremonies. And this is my aspect of this conference that we're having, is that that's what strengthens us, our spirituality and those things that we have in our culture. And we all have different things that has been given to us. But for me here at Lakudere, and from amongst my people here, in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Canada, all the Ojibwe people, the Anishinaabe, Dug, is that we have songs, and we have prayers, and we have dances and ceremonies. We have drums, we have shakers, we have our pipes, we have the animals, and we have the plant life, and those are all gifts for us to use. And that's what strengthens me, and that's what I wanted to share in this conference, is that we have all this, and this is what we want you to know that we have to share. Miigwech, that's it. Miss you.